Previously on Funny Science Fiction.
I think it's my hips are finally done. Is that what the hips are finally done?
Yeah, but they called them hypes. H-Y-P.
My hips are finally done. No, that's my father-in-law.
Hello, and welcome to the Funny Science Fiction Podcast,
where nerds and geeks like us find the friendship and camaraderie we never experienced in middle school. Our guest today is Shannon Perry, the writer and creator of the 9 Ounce podcast. This sci-fi podcast is based in comedy and seems a natural fit with our show. Shannon, why is your show only coming in 9 ounce size? And can we supersize it if we're feeling really thirsty? Did I misread that? I'm sorry. Oz 9. I'm sorry, the Oz 9 podcast.
I was going to say, because we're basically a do you want fries with that sort of show.
Right. Well, thanks for being on the show, Shannon. Welcome.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is awesome.
Great. Good to have you.
We're really glad to have you here. So, Shannon, I'll start off with a line of questions here. Buckle up. Okay. I hope you're ready. No, it's not gonna be that bad. All right. So your
interrogation shall begin.
I've listened to your podcast and I realize I'm, following some fairly impressive guests. So
where were you on October 24th? No. All right. So your Twitter header says that you are deeply committed to whimsy, or as whimsy can be defined as the being playfully quaint with fanciful behavior or humor. So, what levels of whimsy are you dedicated and committed to? We need to discern if this claim is for show or for go.
It's totes for go, dude.
Nice.
Whimsy is serious business. In fact, my parents' neighbor, one time I mentioned that line, whimsy is serious business, to him, and he put it, he actually built a little outhouse in the woods, not an outhouse, but like a pagoda kind of outhouse, and put a wooden tile over it that says whimsy is serious business. Nice. We take our whimsy very seriously.
I dig it.
All right. This is a good place for whimsy.
Right?
Especially when it's windy.
What catalog this week?
I know, right?
I work at a sign shop. That may have to go on my door. Whimsy.
I love it.
There you go.
All right.
Did that actually answer the question? I'm not entirely sure.
I don't even remember the question.
Okay, good. We're good then.
We're gonna go.
You committed. That's all I heard.
We're gonna go with yes.
Awesome.
Just yes. Let's go there.
Yes.
Okay. So on a more serious note, I find that people who were involved with science fiction in the adult stages of their life were typically heavily inspired by at least one science fiction show, movie, at some point in their childhood, perhaps even multiple shows. So what various forms of sci-fi influenced little Shannon Perry to grow up and become the comedic sci-fi podcaster as an adult?
Yeah, I think my influences are fairly obvious. Many of them. Whoops, bumped the microphone. What a professional. The biggest is probably Douglas Adams. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was a huge formative. I'm always afraid they're going to come take my English master's degree away because it is my favorite book.
Right.
I love it. Shout out to Eric Davis for getting me onto that track. But I grew up in a house full of science fiction. Ray Bradbury, we had tons of Ray Bradbury around my house. We had lots of Kurt Vonnegut around the house. And I think, just a love of language. My mom used to read poetry to me when I was a kid. My grandmother on my mom's side was a big, children's poetry fan. There was a lot of Winnie the Pooh. Mm-hmm. So I loved language and fancy and fun as a kid. And there was plenty of it in my house. And then once I got onto Douglas Adams, then,
it was over.
The fate was sealed. Yeah, I was all over at that point,
Well, that's cool. I think the line from Winnie the Pooh to Douglas Adams actually shows where the whimsy comes from.
Exactly.
No,
Exactly.
in all seriousness, I mean,
Yeah.
Winnie the Pooh has a lot of fantasy and whimsy, and there's a lot of silliness. Silliness. Anyway,
Silliosity.
Ooh, silliosity. That's gonna be a thing. All right. So yeah, so I like that. So Douglas Adams, Vonnegut. Yeah, there's nice.
Yeah, and of course, Python. We were big Python fans from way back.
I just want you to know we're moments from becoming BFFs.
Oh, totally.
Yes.
All right. So one of the characters in your show, of course, Mad Pants Madeline. I'm going to quote from your About Us page because these are your words, not mine. I'm assuming your words. But it says, about Captain Madeline is a well-intentioned but not really up to the task. Where Mad Pants Madeline is concerned, Captain could only inspire less respect if followed by crunch. Which I thought was fantastic. I'm like, that's one of the best descriptions ever.
And made me hungry for crunch berries.
Right? Right?
Hey, save those for me.
So knowing that you play Mad Pants,
Mm.
I'm curious to know what was the inspiration behind the creation of the character, and does her character reflect Shannon Perry in real life at all, or portions of you?
You know, it's funny. People ask me that a lot because it is my voice, and it is my regular voice. She's sort of the contrast to Olivia, which is actually the character that I wanted to play,
Yeah.
but we needed somebody to have some semblance of authority on the ship. I don't know that Madeline, her constant desire to be in control and complete inability to be in control, I think, is very much me. In terms of like the Oz9 cast for one, but also just my life in general. But I say that the character that is most like me is the ship. It's like this
really? Yeah.
meandering place where you never quite know what you're going to find when you stumble into the next room, and nobody seems to be able to find their way around, including people who are supposed to know their way around. So yeah, I think there's a lot of me and Madeline, and just that, you know, she tries to take control and then gets distracted by bubble wrap. Like that's me. You know, ooh, bubble wrap.
So you get lost in your house a lot? I mean, is this
in my own mind? Right?
okay?
And yes, in
More
my
about the ship.
Yeah, that's great.
It sounds interesting.
I actually identify with so much of what she just said.
Right?
right, there's like that memory storage that just, you go in there and you try and locate the bits that are about you, and you get distracted by other things.
I mean, there's the whole 3 trips to my kitchen last night for, you know, 1 cup of tea, but, you know, past that.
Exactly. In memory storage, I go in there, it's like, now is that me or did I read that somewhere?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's my memory.
Did I write that about somebody else, or?
Yeah. You start quoting something and you realize, oh, I wrote that. Just a second.
Right. Well, and this is the thing, like, I actually literally now have continuity people on my crew. Kevin, who plays Greg, is always saying to me, now, wait a minute, didn't he already say that? Or isn't this completely contradictory to something 6 episodes ago? And it's like, okay, well, think of a way out of that. Think of a way out of that.
Well, Shannon, you know, on the Funny Science Fiction podcast, we talk about funny science fiction, oddly enough. Seems to come up. I don't know why. But do you have like a go-to funny sci-fi book, movie, radio drama, play, show, you know, characters that you play act with at home? Whatever.
Hand-drawn napkin.
Yeah.
You know, whatever.
Backs of bubble gum or some sort of thing that you go to for long-lasting humor satisfaction.
Definitely always back to Douglas. I mean, I'm
Douglas?
always going to go back to Douglas. But I love to listen to, I just started getting into listening to podcasts as well as producing. And so I am frequently going back to, like, Oblivion, I think, is hilarious. We Fix Space Junk is hilarious. Elaine's Cooking for the Soul is hilarious. I love all of that, and it really just keeps me energized. But one of the ways that I most get energy for continuing on Oz9 is the cast itself. Like, they are so deeply embedded in their characters that I hear them in my head in their own voices.
Great. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. And I just kind of sit there and take notes.
That would
Makes
be
them
fun.
real.
It would,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is. They're really real. It's interesting. And now I'm always a little bit confused when I hear Tim talk in an American accent. It's like, wait a minute, you're
Like,
British.
that's
Oh, no,
not
you're
you.
not actually Colin. That's right.
I was like, wait a minute, I'm not British. Well, I could be.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Mind the gap.
Yeah. We cannot say anything is not my fault around here without hearing it in Olivia's voice.
Yeah.
So,
That's great.
Well, now I feel kind of duty bound to warn our listeners about your podcast and your Starship crew. They get up to no small amount of tomfoolery, and people seem to die a lot from that on your show. Now, I think we've discovered that there's this link between space travel and death that nobody talks much about. I sense a cover-up.
Are they wearing red shirts, perhaps?
What, Tim?
Were they wearing red shirts, perhaps?
Oh, yeah.
Were they wearing red shirts? So, describe a little bit about what happens during your show and what's happening on your ship.
Oh dear, what is happening on the ship? So basically, what appeared to be happening from the outset was that there were a lot of very, very wealthy people who decided it was time to just escape Earth. And so they bought a pod on an Oz ship, and the Oz ships were launched by this corporation called Gated Galaxies, ostensibly to go off and find planets to terraform, and then they would become the owners of those planets, and they would be terribly, terribly rich and in charge of their own planets. Only it's not turning out to be quite the plan.
Right.
So, and Gated Galaxies is definitely not a corporation with the best intentions of its customers at heart. So that's all going terribly, terribly wrong. And the Oz-9 is basically, we think possibly the one remaining ship of the 400 that were initially launched that has not exploded. And that's basically out of sheer luck and not anything that the crew is doing competently, because they are utterly, utterly incompetent. In fact, they are all hired for their incompetence. And there's a pool going on Earth to see which ships are going to explode first.
That's great.
There you go. Okay.
So on the ship, we have this crew of just hopeless. They're trying, they're doing their best, but they're not the brightest wicks in the candle box. And
They're still alive.
They are still alive. They are still alive. Yeah. We aren't entirely sure why, but they are still alive. They just kind of blunder from mishap to mishap. And Captain Madeline, of course, is the captain of the Oz-9. And then we've taken aboard Captain Jessie because her ship was on the verge of immolating. So she came over. Unfortunately, her assassin came with her, but we're working on that. So,
have assassin will travel.
Right. Darn
Well,
those guys.
it's a fun show, and thank you for sharing that with us. That would get
Thank
some
you.
people interested in listening to it, because there's a lot going on in every episode, and it's enjoyable.
Good
Now,
stuff.
I was also, as was Tim, I was perusing your Twitter feed for interesting topics, as I'm prone to do before I talk with a guest.
Awesome.
Now, you asked recently an important space question, and I didn't really feel very good about the answer, or the lack of answer. Perhaps you might address it. The question was, if an asteroid is coming straight for your ship, what are the chances it'll break up before it hits you? Then there was a GIF of a train heading straight for us. And in my head, I'm like, wait a minute, spoiler alert. Do you know something about 2020, that how it ends, that you're not telling the rest of us?
No.
No? Good. Okay.
No.
Feel a lot better now.
Well, this is kind of a ridiculous thing, side story. We were invited to come do a live show in Chicago. And so I wrote a special script just for it. And it was at the end of 2019. And at one point, the characters are like, well, maybe we'll just stay on Earth. This looks really good. And then we figure out, oh, it's 2019. Uh-oh. Oh, 2020 is coming. And so we all go back to our ship and go away, right?
Yeah. So
totally didn't know that 2020 was going to be.
did not know it. Who
Yeah,
could have guessed?
It's
right?
not my fault.
Oh, that's funny.
I just want to clarify too. When Alan says, when Drayton says, that we were perusing, you could also, replace that with slight stalking.
Stalking. Perusing, stalking,
It's a gentle, kind stalking.
If you can follow our Twitter feed, good on you.
Exactly.
So I have to ask, what are your, obviously you all are totally into science fiction. What are some of your favorites?
Yeah, fair enough. I am the resident Star Wars nerd.
Awesome.
I grew up on Star Wars. I always say that I have a marriage to Star Wars because it's there for me in sickness and in health, good times and bad. It's been there for every major thing in my life with my own family. And my kids are all Star Wars fans. And so, I'm in heaven today because of the new episode of The Mandalorian, and there's so much to nerd out about with The Mandalorian. Oh my God. Anyway, but yeah, Star Wars, although, you can have the argument that it's really space fantasy, not sci-fi. Either way, that's where my camp sits. And
yeah.
I'm not the biggest Trek fan. I make that pretty clear with everything that we talk about here, which is mainly offensive to the rest of the group I work with. But yeah, Star Wars is pretty much it. I'm also a really big fan of oh goodness, my mind just went blank on me. Fifth Element. There it is. Fifth Element.
Oh, okay.
Fifth Element. Okay.
Cool.
Wow. I could
that big
see
of a
Bruce
fan.
Willis. I could see Bruce Willis. I could see the rest of the characters. My brain just went beep, 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 beep.
You know,
I have that effect on people.
No.
And I'm also a really big fan. I'm listening to the book right now of Ernest Cline. He did Ready Player One.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And Ready Player Two is getting ready to come out, and I'm so excited about that. I prefer the book over the movie, and he also played a part of another one of my favorite movies called Fanboys, which
Nice.
I don't know if you're familiar with Fanboys.
Have heard of it, have not seen.
If you're a Star Wars fan, please watch Fanboys.
Okay.
That and all the pop culture references in it are amazing. But yeah, so Ernest Cline is on my my high on my wish list of people I would just love to interview. I think he writes some
wow.
amazing stuff.
Right.
And but yeah, those are probably my top three of things are my go-tos.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was 9 when the very first Star Wars came out, showing my age, but it had a huge effect on me, my brothers. I think all of us got into the whole idea of sci-fi and fantasy because we were just the right age for Star Wars, you know?
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
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 I,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, okay. I've always enjoyed Star Wars, Star Trek, a lot of the shows. Not a big Doctor Who fan, but I really like the funny in. Everybody's gonna kill me because I say this all the time. Muppets. Muppets are sci-fi.
Oh, yeah.
We got Yoda. We got all these other things. We got big guy, big worm guy.
Jabba.
Jabba, he's a Muppet.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
I
know,
mean, we got
technically
big,
Muppets
so
there,
we got
so.
a lot of those. So I do like Muppets. As far as sci-fi, I like the funny and sci-fi. So if the funnier, the better for me. But I do enjoy Star Wars and Star Trek both. So.
Are you a Red Dwarf fan?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I live with them. I don't need to watch them.
That statement might need a section of clarification.
Teddy's brother was one of the Munchkins in Oz the Great and Powerful.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
Henceforth the Red Dwarf
henceforth
comment.
So
the
hence-
Red
yeah.
Dwarf jokes.
Yeah.
All close to home, but we're not offended at all. No.
Just yeah.
Just,
What's
of
yours?
course, I've been around. My mother was a classical pianist and into classical. My father was a policeman into Hank Williams. So of course, I was into Star Trek
Right.
and all other sci-fi stuff.
Hank
I
Williams,
was-
the singer.
Yeah, Hank Williams. I'm just there were two different elements there, and I grew up with an eclectic taste. I enjoyed just about everything in moderation, of course. But no, I really enjoy now. I loved Douglas Adams when I heard it on the radio the first time, is when I first heard it. And then later went back and read the books, and I still enjoy actually the radio performance, listening to that.
Yeah.
When I go back through it, I enjoy that even more than the book, and especially the movie. We won't talk about that. But I also loved some of Douglas Adams' other stuff, you know, his Dirk Gently stuff, and had lots of fun.
Yeah.
I actually won a flash fiction Douglas Adams.
I saw that 42-word story.
42-word story. And you couldn't name any of the characters directly in the story. You couldn't. You had to allude to everything indirectly. So I had fun with it.
In 42 words?
Is that
In 42
posted?
words.
You
Yeah,
have that on our...
yeah, I have it posted. I'll repost it. And
You
then of
used
course,
more than 42 just to describe the fact that you won a 42-word story.
I know, right?
more than that, just to do that. But and then of course Terry Pratchett, I enjoy his humor as well. I like the Brit humor more so than the American. I grew up with both, and I product of the television generation in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s and so on. On all the way through, but very good. And of course, I was a junior in high school when Star Wars came out, so
nice.
I didn't see it right away until I heard everybody talk. Old. Yeah. Well, it's like I tell them, it's like I remember a world before Star Wars.
That's right.
A sad, boring little world.
I was just saying, a very quiet, dull.
Not a single pew was had.
That's right. So
Yeah,
I noticed.
Womp rats.
What's that?
No, I said I used to bullseye womp rats with my T16 back home, and they weren't much bigger than 2 meters.
There you go.
We had the record, so we memorized like chunks.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we're now 1 inch away from being BFFs, because if you can memorize that, all right.
If you can guess what's on his t-shirt.
Oh, I got more. I got more.
I saw it.
Oh,
No
yeah.
Nerf. Yeah.
He's a
Scruffy looking
scruffy
nerf
looking.
herding.
That's funny.
Awesome.
So Shannon, I noticed in season 3, episode 8, entitled "Putting the Freeze on Boogerology," I figured this was a new terminology, so I looked it up. There is a word online, but it's not boogerology. It was burgerology. It's a study of how beef tastes and looks and all things burgers.
Okay.
Going with just the spelling of your word boogerology, can you explain to us what boogerology is?
And is it related in any way to burgerology? No, don't go there. Don't go there.
Well, see, it has to do with how it tastes and looks.
I'm actually a very squeamish person, which makes this podcast occasionally difficult to write. But so boogerology is what one might find up a robot zebra's nose.
That answers it. For me.
We're going to go with that.
That's a satisfying answer to that question.
Yeah, excellent, because it's a highly niche field, and I feel like I will not be called upon to answer any further questions.
I think when Nick was little, he made a joke, what's 6 foot long and in an elephant's nose? You know,
Right.
It's like an elephant booger or something. It was like, whatever.
Yeah. Kid jokes.
Yeah, one of the jokes around
Bad
the
joke.
back end of Oz 9 is that 8th grade is going to be awesome because we're into some humor that is perhaps a little immature.
8th grade's gonna be awesome. I love it.
Okay, so I
On the
promise not to kill Colin. So what's Colin's real name?
Oh, Horace.
Okay.
Horace. Yes.
Wait a minute.
Put it in there. If you
Horse
promise not to kill him, you'll
or
get his real
Horace?
name.
That's right. Horace.
Horace.
Okay.
Not horse.
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 Well, I thought you said horse because we're just talking about a zebra. I'm like, oh, so it's zebra. Horse. Anyway,
Had I known how hard it was to get a hold of galloping sound effects, I might have gone with a quieter animal choice.
Isn't it just a coconut?
Yeah, do you have coconuts?
I got
There's
2 empty halves
actually-
of coconuts and I'm banging them together.
If I had the Monty Python one, I would totally go with it. But unfortunately, I have bad Foley.
There you
So,
go. That's funny.
Yeah.
So it took me a bit to figure out who actually Captain Madeline was and who played Captain Madeline, but we figured out that was you. That's good.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to know, what can you tell us about the captain that might interest people to listen in to your podcast?
What can I tell you about the captain? I think there are hidden levels which we have not yet discovered.
Ooh.
She is, because it's my character and I find everybody more interesting than I am. I tend to downplay Madeline a little bit, but I've been getting encouragement, particularly from some friends, that Madeline now needs to blossom on her own.
There you go.
So I'm really not sure what's going to come out. You know, I am, as Sarah has said, a total pantser.
There you
I
go.
tend to, yeah. The episodes are getting written at, 30 minutes prior to recording, so
There
I'm
you go.
Yeah.
struggling to get them out. So
Right. Nice. It's nice to
Very
know.
good.
yeah,
Character
but I think there's
can look
Go ahead,
to
I'm
for
sorry.
surprises or whatever. You have a character that people can always enjoy.
yeah, I think there's some surprises in Madeline we have not yet discovered, and they're gonna come out. I think we're gonna find that she's gonna be more of a leader under stress, and we just need a different trigger for her to emerge in full blossom
Awesome.
or
Something to
Pink
look
blood,
forward
pink
to.
blossom.
Very good. Yeah. Well,
right.
that's the fun part about being a pantser is you figure out it gives you excitement about wanting to find out what's going to happen in my story. The only way to
Yes,
find out is by writing it, and so it gives you incentive to write.
exactly. And every once in a while, like this puzzle piece will just slot in so perfectly, and it's like, oh yeah, I meant to do that.
There you go.
Absolutely. You know, and you in the background going, yes, I can't believe that works.
So
I would just like to point out that there is going to be a lot of confused people who are listening, who aren't writers, who are not going to understand what pantsing and pantsers are.
Oh, yes.
look it up. Just tell them look it up. There's Google now.
Look, when I was a kid, if you
Not like we live in
pant somebody, it means you
World
pulled their
before
pants
Star
down.
Wars.
Right.
And I think the first time I listened to Sarah's live and she was talking about that, doing some pantsing, I'm like, wait, who's getting pantsed?
Yeah. I went back to middle school again. Yeah.
Grade's going to be great.
Right? I kind of feel like that's what I'm doing to my cast, though. I'm kind of like pulling their pants down, going,
Aha!
Gotcha.
I have to go.
So
And the
our
flight of your pants.
our engineer Nick has a question.
Yeah, I was just get into that.
All right.
yeah.
So you want to ask it, Tim? Or
Sure. All right. So Nick says, which character in the Oz 9 podcast would you like to have seen thrown into another sci-fi universe? In which universe would you like to see him be thrown into?
Nice.
Oh, man. Let's see. So let's pick a universe first.
Let's throw
Well, I
some-
would
Not
like-
Star Wars, Tim. Not
Not-
Star Wars.
I was drinking my
Darn it.
water. Thank you very much.
That's where I was going to. And
No, you can do Star Wars. I was just giving Tim a hard time.
But what scene in Star Wars?
The
Okay.
Mandalorian. We got to put him in
I
the
got it.
Mandalorian. The next
Let her
episode.
pick her.
I'm sorry.
okay, I will not pick myself, although just assume that I want to do this myself, quite frankly. But let's put Dr. Theo on board Serenity on the Firefly.
There you go. What's he gonna do there?
I don't know. I'm afraid he might already kind of be there.
Get canceled. He's going to get canceled. No,
He's a doctor, right? So-
Seriously.
He's bringing season 2.
he's bringing
Yeah.
season 2 on.
there
There
you
you
go.
And that's where we angered all our fans and we have 0
Is
subscriptions. so.
Dr. Theo happy with this?
I just want to, if I could help bring Firefly back by losing a character to it, do it. Let's do it.
That's great. That's awesome.
Anything with Nathan Fillion, I will watch.
Anything with Nathan Fillion.
Yeah,
Where would you
it's
put
fun.
you as the captain? Where would
Yeah,
you
let's put you in there. We're going to make
What
you do it
scenario
now.
are you going to go in?
You were forced at water pistol point because they don't let me say gunpoint anymore.
Wow, we've elevated down from gunpoint to water pistol.
Well, I understood that you guys were going to take Sarah Ringward's toenails, so I'm pretty
Right? Yeah. We had to come up with a punishment that was.
Well, that's
something.
we had to motivate.
that was our co-host Josh. He's not here today. He's sadistic. He's not here, so I can say that about him.
all righty then.
He can't defend himself.
Okay, so what am I doing? At
You're
Water
putting
Pistol?
Put
You in
your
a-
character in a different. Put him in a different.
You're in
put
a
her
universe. What universe would you be in?
I don't know that I want to go aboard the Heart of Gold.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
what sci-fi universe would I want to go to? I'm not going to
Or
Mars.
fantasy. You can go fantasy. I don't care.
Go fantasy?
Sure.
Go Muppets.
You can go Muppets.
Ooh.
Sesame Street.
Okay, we are putting Oz9's Olivia on the Muppet Show.
There you go. She'd fit
She
right
would
in.
be so
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, I think that is the first time she would ever not be snarky and mean. Like,
Right?
so happy.
Well, you got Oscar the Grouch to compete with.
Right?
Ever see? I can just see her like hanging out with Beaker, and Beaker breaking something, and she's like, "Not my fault."
No, although we'd probably have to put Jesse in there too, because I'm pretty sure Animal is Jesse's spirit animal,
Oh, there you go.
right?
Awesome.
I can see that.
All right. Well, it's come to that point in the show where we have to get serious. We're going to begin our quiz. And the name of this quiz this week is Name That Decade.
Play for cash and prizes. No cash or prizes will be given.
No cash or
Can
prizes.
I phone a friend?
Phone a friend.
I guess.
We can poll the audience.
As long as it's not Sarah. No.
Nuts.
All right. So if this is how this goes. If you get 3 or more right, you get one of our lovely mugs.
Oh, I am so craving that.
And
Those
if
are
you
awesome.
get 5 questions right, you'll get a copy of my book where I scribble in the front.
Sweet.
Actually, it's just a cover with blank pages. He couldn't afford the printing, so it's going to take him a couple weeks. He's got to write it all out.
Yeah, because when I ordered the books, I couldn't afford the ink, so I just got blank books, and I figured I could write each one by hand.
Really great covers, though.
Totally.
Really great covers.
He does speed writing, so
Speed
it's
writing,
okay.
yeah. You won't be able to read any of it because my glyph is
It's like Chinese.
All right,
All right.
so then of course the punishment, if you fail to get at least 3 right, then we will paste your face on a meme, tasteful but hilarious meme to in
Mostly
our
tasteful.
Funny Science Fiction Facebook group. So do you accept these terms and are willing to proceed?
Yeah, I might as well just make a face now because I'm memeing.
And if that doesn't motivate you, we could threaten the toenails too. So you find that more motivating. All right, so go ahead with our first question.
Let's do this. All right. What decade did Hot Tub Time Machine come out? Was it in the 1990s, the 2000s, or the 2010s?
I'm going to go 90s.
Oh, no, it's 2010.
2010 it came out.
See, I told you I'm going to be terrible at this game.
It's all right. So we need the memes. You know.
Great. So it's not a toenail per question then, right?
No. It's not, yeah. Only
All
Sarah
right,
got that.
Deb.
All right. The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. Was this in the decade of the 1960s, the 1970s, or the 1980s?
1980s.
Yes,
Yes.
1980.
All right. 1 for 1.
All right.
Awesome.
Now, this wonderful show, Catwomen of the Moon, was that in the 40s, the 50s, or the 60s?
60s.
Want a second guess?
I'm guessing I need one.
You want to phone a friend? You want me to split the answers in half? The 50s, yes, you got it! Yay!
All right. So 2 right, 1 wrong. All right. So Alien, when did it come out? Was that the 70s? Was it the 80s? Or was it the 90s?
I'm trying to think how old I was. 80s.
No, that was the 70s.
It was
That was
tricky.
really close.
it was
so
79.
79.
79. Oh,
Yes,
man.
very close. Very
By the
close.
time you saw it, you know, it might have already been out for a year. So
Right. So
We
define
can give it
come
to you.
out. Cinema or Netflix?
Right?
Or DVD? Box set.
By the time I watched it on TV or the movie.
When was it on Betamax?
Oh, ouch.
3/4 cassette.
All right, maybe you know this one. Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Awesome movie.
70s, 80s, or 90s?
Okay. I'm probably gonna get this wrong. I'm sure I'm gonna get this wrong, but I'm gonna go, darn you. Couldn't you have said like the 20s as the first one?
30s or 70s?
70s.
70s, yes!
I was gonna go with 70s. I was, because
You
Drew
were.
Barrymore was very
You got a mug.
I got a mug.
All right. Well, we're going to
You
ask
don't
a
get my
bonus-
mug.
We're going to go for the gold now. Since
Awesome.
All right. We're going to just go for it all with the bonus question now.
Okay.
All right. The Fifth Element. Was that in the 80s, the 90s, or the double aughts?
Tim, I'm phoning a friend.
Phone a friend.
Well, I graduated high school in 1995. This movie came out 2 years later.
90s.
Yes, that'd be correct.
She got it. Yes. Woo, 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 woo. Awesome. You'll get an autographed copy of the funny science fiction book, Custodians of the
Awesome.
Cosmos.
Love it.
Boldly go to clean up after those that boldly just went.
So when you say boldly just went,
Yes.
Well, you know,
The answer is yes. In both contexts, it would be correct.
so they were very, very afraid.
janitors, you know, they
Perfect.
You know, they saved the day, not the captain.
Yeah.
And how they save the day in that book is amazing.
Well, considering my brother plays the janitor on our ship, I have a soft spot for janitors.
There you go.
Yes, and you know, it's a very innovative book because I took the technology of Star Trek and went way beyond what they do. You know,
Awesome.
in fact, Cale Butterly's dream of being a starship officer seems dead when he fails the entry exam for the Coalition's Officers Space Academy. So he devises a foolproof backup plan to get a custodian job on a starship, meet lots of officers, and impress and amaze them until they recommend him for the program. He only needs one recommendation, but Cale underestimates the exceptional level of fools his foolproof plan is up against.
I love it. Oh, that sounds great. Oh, super excited.
It's a lot of fun. So
Yeah,
you'll
it's a
enjoy
great
that.
book.
Oh,
You should make a movie out of that book.
and there's more than one, right? You said this was the start of a series of books?
It could be.
Cool.
It should be.
The second one is still up here somewhere, but I'm trying to finish my work in progress.
Well, as soon as I finish the first one, I'm going to start poking you. Just so you know.
It's on one of those trips to the refrigerator. He hasn't figured out which trip it is yet. It's hidden behind the meatloaf.
It'll be. I'll pants it eventually.
One of these days.
I understand that reference.
So Shannon, thank you so much for being on the show today. Where can people go to find more about your podcast and your other works?
oz-9.com. And thank you so much. This has been really fun.
Yeah, we'll be sure to place those in our description so people can find you and all the things that you do on that.
Yeah, we really enjoyed having
This has been a hoot.
Been a treat. Thank you so much.
I also like to remind our listeners that the single most important thing you can do to ensure that we get more amazing guests like Shannon and more funny moments like we just experienced by subscribing and checking like. Do that for Shannon's work as well. Always feel free to contact us on our Facebook group, Funny Science Fiction, where you can find all the memes that you can eat.
None of Shannon.
No extra trouble.
No memes of Shannon.
Sorry.
Now remember, if you're not happy with the content of today's show, all you have to do is just let us know. We'll be happy to subject the offending party to a 24-hour nonstop marathon of John Travolta's Battlefield Earth via Clockwork Orange style. Because if you know what that means, you know what that means.
Please no.
So our ending quote this week comes from Philip K. Dick. If you think this universe is bad, you should see some of the others. Thanks again, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.
Goodbye,
Thank you,
everybody.
Shannon. Bye, everybody.
It would be illogical if we failed to mention our charity, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphan Fund. Because, as we all know, in episode 117, just 23 minutes and 17 seconds into the show, red-shirted Starship crew members will probably die after being constricted by giant maggots in the Genesis planet. This, of course, leaves the poor families destitute.
Now, please remember that our fictional charity, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, is connected to a very real charity, and that's Wish Upon a Teen. So anything that you purchase from the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans merchandise line, 100% of the profits from those merchandise items goes directly to Wish Upon a Teen. They help sick kids have a more comfortable stay in the hospital when their stays become extended. Let's help Wish Upon a Teen help some sick kids. You get some cool swag, they get a cool room.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of Funny Science Fiction, we'd like to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on one of our future episodes, please contact us by means of our Facebook group, Funny Science Fiction. You can find us on Twitter or Instagram using the handle @funnysci-fi, or you can go to draytonallen.com and click the Contact Me link at the bottom of the page. Thanks again. Hope you enjoyed the episode.